I'm 16 years old and have recently started buying my own groceries, cooking for myself, etc. I would have started sooner, but my truck is currently broke down and my EM has promised to teach me to cook for years and never did. I finally just taught myself because I'm going to college out of state this fall. I get groceries by going with my mentor counselor who takes me to the grocery store. It's part of the counseling program I'm in. Because I only have a permit and again my truck is broke down, so I can only buy stuff every so often. My job is also babysitting, so I don't even make that much. The babysitting is with my EM because she won't let me get a different job, but holds the babysitting over my head. I have my wisdom teeth removal surgery tomorrow. If you never had your wisdom teeth removed, you're not allowed to eat anything starting the midnight the day of the surgery. Can't use a straw. You can only eat cold, soft foods until the bleeding stops, followed by only being able to eat soft, warm food when the bleeding is done. I went out with my mentor after school and went to the grocery. I have a credit card in my EM name and my dad's name, but they've both been given to me and I pay them. My EM called me as I walked into the store and specifically said not to use my dad's card unless I go over 40 on her card. So I used her card for everything but a container of ice cream because I didn't want to chance it and have my card decline. I bought a small container of ice cream, those drinkable yogurts, oatmeal, and quick-make mashed potatoes and mac and cheese. I struggle with texture issues, so the only cold things I could really eat were ice cream and yogurt. I get home, my EM wants to know what I bought. I showed her being proud and whatnot before she sees my ice cream and says she's going to try some. I figured, tomorrow, after I opened it. Nope. Immediately opened it and took a big spoonful. I took a bite as well to make sure I liked it, but immediately put it back. Made a joke about eating it and went to take a nap. I wake up to go grab food and she takes my ice cream out of the freezer and grabs a spoon saying she's going to try it. I point out she already did, and she just tells me she didn't with a smirk on his face. I go to grab it because I bought it for tomorrow. After surgery, she pulls away from me and starts eating several spoonfuls just smirking at me. My dad has the decency to call her out saying she only said she was going to take a bite. She mentions how she's going to just buy me another one. She won't, or she'll do it days after I need it. I told her I brought it with my money. She says I used her card. When I pointed out that she literally told me to, she says it was still her card, the one she had gave me, and if it was in her care, she would have maxed it out already. She tells me it's messed up. I only bought myself ice cream and not her. Didn't think about my mom at all. I remind her I already told her I was getting ice cream. I also reminded her I was having surgery, and there was little to nothing else I could eat. She starts fighting with me for some reason. She then says she's going to eat everything after I go to sleep and I can just deal with it. I reminded her how childish she was being at 40, one fighting with a 16-year-old about food I bought. My dad yells at us to stop and she keeps going about how if I take it upstairs, see how good it is tomorrow. I once again asked her if she was really going to, at 41, eat all of a 16-year-old's food. That was bought because of a surgery. My dad yells at me this time to drop it, go back to sleep and stop being grumpy, and that I have an attitude. This isn't even the first time she's tried to compete with my groceries. For some reason, I bought my own body wash 4 days ago because we haven't had any for a few months, and the next day she comes in flaunting how she got her and my little sister body wash and making a big deal out of it. I bought stuff to make dinner and she tries taking charge of my cooking. I told her not to put the butter in yet. I have to get some stuff prepared first, and I'm going to use a pan anyways because it's hard to mix stuff in such a small pot. She puts the butter in anyways, causing me to rush. The butter burns. When I try to mix anything, I have to tilt the pot sideways. I had to dump it because it was burnt and she blamed me for burning it. When I told her I was the one cooking and to leave me alone and I was able to do my own thing, it didn't burn. So there I was, just minding my own business, doing a little retail therapy at the mall. The usual weekend vibe. The fluorescent lights, the smell of cinnamon buns wafting from the food court. It was also typical. Little did I know that my day was about to take a wild turn into the realm of entitled madness. I strutted out of the mall, bags in hand, feeling like I'd conquered the sales racks. As I approached my car, though, the air shifted. There was this commotion in the parking lot, and being the curious cat that I am, I had to check it out. Now, picture this, a bunch of teenagers doing their TikTok dance routine. The one where they look like they're trying to summon rain with their funky move. It was all harmless fun until a giant escalade, driven by what I can only describe as the human embodiment of entitlement, comes barreling in like it's auditioning for a Fast and Furious movie. The poor kid in the TikTok squad, let's call him Jaden, was in the middle of his hip, swaying masterpiece when the Escalade decided to join the party without an invite. Bam! Jaden's world went from TikTok stardom to a painful crash landing. The Escalade had given him a note, so gentle love tap. I rushed over, dropping my shopping bags because priorities, right? Jaden's on the ground, clutching his arm, wincing in pain. And who emerges from the monstrous vehicle? Karen. Classic Karen haircut, oversized sunglasses, and a look on her face that screamed, "I can't be bothered!" "Get up, you little faker," she spat at Jaden, as if he'd just pulled off the most elaborate prank of the century. Now, I don't know what TikTok prank she's been watching, but breaking someone's arm for views seemed a bit extreme, even by internet standards. I couldn't just stand there, so I waded into the mess, throwing my hands up like, "What the heck, Karen? I told her, lady, he's not faking it. Look at him, he's in agony." Karen, instead of showing an ounce of remorse, decides to play doctor. She kneels down, grabs Jaden's injured arm, and gives it a good yank. The poor kid screamed, and I swear, I saw tears in his eyes. That's when I let my inner New Yorker out. "What is wrong with you, lady? You can't just run people over and then try to arm wrestle them back to health." But Karen wasn't having any of it. She looked at me like I was some annoying insect ruining her picnic. "Mind your own business, honey. Kids these days always pulling pranks for attention." I could feel my blood pressure rising, and I knew this situation needed some serious adulting. "No, this is my business. You hit him with your tank of a car, and now you're assaulting him. We're calling the cops." And that's exactly what I did. I pulled out my phone, hit up 911, and gave them the lowdown on Karen and her reckless escapade. Meanwhile, Karen's still standing there, probably rehearsing her "Do you know who I am?" speech. The cops roll up, and Karen immediately goes into full diva mode. "Do you know who I am? This is ridiculous. I have places to be." The officer, a no-nonsense type, responds, "Lady, it doesn't matter who you are. You hit someone, and now you're causing a scene. You're coming with us." Karen, undeterred, tries to charm her way out of it. "Look, officers, I'm a very important person. I can't be dealing with this nonsense." The cop, unimpressed, retorts, "Well, important person or not, you're still going to have to deal with the consequences of your actions." I stood there feeling a weird mix of satisfaction and disbelief. Karen's SUV was being impounded. Jaden was on his way to the hospital and justice. My friends, justice was being served. As they cuffed Karen, she looked at me with the kind of glare that could curdle milk. "You'll regret this." I just shrugged. "Regret saving a kid from getting run over? Doubt it." So there we were, Karen getting escorted to the backseat of a police car like she was an extra in a crime drama. I felt a strange mix of relief and disbelief that all this chaos was unfolding in a mall parking lot. The cops were surprisingly chill, considering they were dealing with a Karen on a rampage. One of them came over to take my statement, and I spilled the whole tea. The officer nodded, gave me a pat on the back, and said, "Good job looking out for the kid. We'll handle it from here." Meanwhile, Karen, in the back of the police car, was still trying to play her entitled card. "You'll all pay for this. My lawyer will hear about it." The officer just shut the car door, muttering something about people and their lawyers. Classic Karen move, right? Always threatening with legal action like it's the ultimate trump card. As the scene was starting to wind down, I took a moment to check on Jaden. His friends were gathered around him, probably still in shock from the whole ordeal. The poor guy was pale, but he managed a weak smile when he saw me. "Thanks for stepping in," he said, his voice strained. "No problem, dude. No one messes with my fellow TikTokers," I replied, trying to lighten the mood. He chuckled, wincing a bit. "Guess this is my most dramatic TikTok yet." I grinned. "You'll get 1,000,000 views for sure. When Karen met TikTok, it's a hit already." Jaden's friends started laughing, and the tension in the air began to dissipate. It was like we were all collectively saying, "Screw you, Karen. We're not letting you ruin our vibe." The ambulance arrived to take Jaden to the hospital, and I promised to swing by later to check on him. As they loaded him into the ambulance, he threw up a peace sign, a true TikTok trooper even in the face of adversity. With the immediate drama over, I turned my attention back to the cops. Karen was still throwing a tantrum, yelling something about being late for a spy appointment. The officer, clearly done with her antics, just gave me a knowing look. Thanks again for your help, ma'am. We've dealt with our fair share of entitled folks, but this one takes the cake. I chuckled. Tell me about it. Glad I could be of service. The officer tipped his hat, which felt like a move straight out of an old western. As my boyfriend and I settled into our cozy corner at the quaint little cafe for a casual lunch date, little did we know that our peaceful afternoon would take an unexpected turn. Laughter and conversations filled the air as we browsed through the menu, deciding on our meal choices. As the waitress took our orders, I couldn't help but notice a lively group at the table behind us. Amidst the chatter, my attention was drawn to an adorable yet mischievous 4 or 5-year-old happily immersed in her world of Lego blocks. The colorful pieces clinked and clanked against the floor as she joyfully tossed them with abandon, creating a spectacle that was impossible to ignore. The first few blocks that hit the ground prompted a brief pause in our conversation as we exchanged glances with the neighboring tables. The man, seated 2 tables away, shot a confused and somewhat irritated look at the scattered Lego blocks. It was evident that the child's play was causing a disturbance, not only to us, but to those around us as well. My boyfriend and I exchanged bemused smiles, expecting the child's mother to intervene and bring the playful antics to a halt. However, much to our dismay, the mother seemed indifferent to the chaos her little one was creating. She continued engrossed in her conversation with 5 other ladies, seemingly oblivious to the ruckus unfolding just behind her. As the Lego blocks continued their journey across the floor, my patience wore thin. The hazard of scattered toys became increasingly apparent, especially in a space frequented by waitstaff maneuvering trays and other patrons navigating the area. My concern grew not only for our own safety, but for the unsuspecting servers who could easily slip on the stray Lego pieces. I shot a glance at my boyfriend, who shared my frustration. We exchanged a few words about the situation, contemplating whether we should address the issue ourselves or hope that the mother would eventually notice the escalating disturbance. It became clear that if someone didn't step in soon, the playful chaos could result in unintended consequences. With a sense of responsibility, I decided to approach the situation delicately. Turning in my seat, I caught the eye of the mother and offered a polite smile, hoping to convey a shared understanding of the challenges of parenting. She met my gaze briefly but quickly returned her attention to the ongoing conversation, seemingly uninterested in the disruption her child was causing. Undeterred, I leaned back in my chair, realizing that a more direct approach might be necessary. My boyfriend and I exchanged a few more words, contemplating whether we should involve the staff or find a tactful way to communicate our concern to the mother. Just as we deliberated, the mother finally seemed to acknowledge the situation. With a distracted look, she momentarily pulled her daughter's attention away from the Lego blocks, only for the child to resume her playful antics shortly afterward. It was a fleeting attempt at discipline, and the blocks continued to be thrown with the same exuberance. Frustration lingered in the air as we finished our lunch, the Lego blocks a constant reminder of the untamed energy behind us. The cafe, once a haven of tranquility, had become a battleground between a mother's conversation and a child's playful rebellion. As we left the cafe, my boyfriend and I exchanged glances once more, sharing a silent understanding of the challenges of parenting and the delicate balance between enjoying social moments and ensuring the safety and comfort of those around us. Sorry if this post is confusing. Long story, when I, 24 female, was 2, I was adopted by my half-brother's dad, 65 male. Because my mother, 51 female, was in prison all my childhood due to taking drugs and stealing, and my dad did everything for me to not have the lifestyle my birth mother has, and has been single this whole time due to racing us, and I don't know my birth father. I got back in contact with birth mother at age 13, and she still drank and dabbled with drugs. Her influence on me was scary because I didn't want to turn out like her. When I slept over at hers, she would be drunk and get in my face while I was laid in bed on them, whispering, "You witch, I know you have stolen my gold ring, like what the F?" Then she would leave the room and scream, saying she didn't want me. She wanted my older sister, 25 female, who was raised by her birth father. Like that was crazy to me to wake up to that. Now, I am married and we have a daughter together. My husband, 26 male, doesn't want her around our child because he says she is toxic and manipulative and will have a bad influence on the family, and I agree. I told her why I don't want my daughter around her and how she influenced me as a teenager, and I don't want that for my daughter. She always has an excuse and never just admits that she made a mistake. It's always someone else's fault. Or she doesn't remember the things I remember, like when I was 2, I thought she was dead on the sofa, but now I'm older, I realize she was high on heroin. Her mindset is a victim blaming the world for her choices, and she turns everything toxic, saying she would have never chose a man over her mother, but I'm choosing the family I created and a healthy lifestyle. I feel like I could be the jerk for not wanting contact with her. She has hurt me and affected my mental health, and whenever we speak, she will offer me money or suggest we meet, and when I refuse money, she gets angry and gives me the silent treatment. I am hurt and don't want to feel responsible for her life and how she could influence my choices as a parent. She feels entitled to my daughter and feels entitled to me and my brothers, 22 male and 20 male. They're both really successful now thanks to how my dad raised us, and she says she pushed us out and gave us life when really it's thanks to my dad that they have both got good jobs, even though he struggled doing everything on his own. We can't speak without it turning into manipulation and toxicness, so I've decided to cut all contact for my own health and my family. I wish she could have been normal, and I don't like the things she says about my dad. She will blame him for her not being there for growing up, and tells me he isn't my dad just because we're not blood related, and she blames my husband for me, not wanting her around when she made her life choices. Once I got married and pregnant with my daughter, she was saying things like, she is going to have a baby at the age of 50 and things that a grandmother wouldn't say. When I was a teenager, I felt sorry for her, fell for her being the victim, but since having my daughter and growing up, I can see her for what she is. She would slag my husband of hoping I would join in, but it made me hate her, to be honest. She also tries to lie to me about her age, and I tell her, why would you lie? And she says because she still looks young and has periods. And it's just all confusing to me why that's what she would want to talk about when I just had a daughter.